No, thank you very much. In keeping with our own tradition, I'll now start by bowing to my right and to my left. Thank you very much. We'll now proceed to observe a moment of silence for prayer or meditation. Thank you very much. Be seated. Yes. Honorable delegates, before we proceed, I will ask the Eastern Cape to indicate how it is voting. Eastern Cape,
Eastern Cape iyavuma sehlala.
Eastern Cape, Yavuma, Free State,
Free State vote in favor, Chair.
Free State votes in favor. Thank you very much. Gauteng.
Gauteng in favor, Chair.
Gauteng votes in favor. KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal iyaseka.
KwaZulu-Natal iyaseka. Limpopo.
Limpopo support.
Limpopo supports. Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga will support, Chair.
Mpumalanga supports. Northern Cape.
Northern Cape supports, Honorable Chairperson.
Northern Cape supports. Northwest.
Bokweni Bophirima ba ya amogela.
Bokweni Bophirima ya amogela. Thank you very much. Western Cape.
Western Cape supports.
Western Cape supports. So voting is now closed, and all provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the motion agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Thank you very much. We will now proceed and look at Rule 229. So, honorable delegates, I would like to take this opportunity to, as we move in that direction, to welcome the Deputy President. Thank you very much. Also to welcome the permanent delegates, MECs, and all special delegates to the House. Now, I would like to remind delegates that in terms of Rule 229 of the Council rules, the time for reply by the Deputy President to a question is 5 minutes. Only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question. A member who has asked the initial question would be the first to be afforded an opportunity to ask a supplementary question. The time for asking a supplementary question is 2 minutes. And the time for reply to a supplementary question is 4 minutes. And very important, honorable delegates, the supplementary question must emanate from the initial question. So we can't just raise any question. The question must relate to the main question. We will now proceed to questions. The first question is question number 13. This question is on the National Coalition Dialogue. National Coalition Dialogue. The question is from Honorable Mohai and is directed to the Deputy President. Honorable Deputy President, will ask you to proceed to the podium. So we'll ask the Deputy President to respond to question 13. And we'll proceed from there.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and a good afternoon to all honorable members of the NCOP. It's good to be with you once again. Honorable Chairperson, I would like to express my gratitude to all the participants of the National Dialogue on Coalition Governments for their invaluable contributions to the success of the dialogue, which was held at the University of the Western Cape on the 4th to the 5th of August this year. Political parties and representatives from various sectors of our society came together to discuss a set of principles aimed at promoting the effective functioning of coalition governments to serve the people, especially at local government level. Honorable Chairperson, through collaborative efforts, we can establish a robust and effective, stable, and resilient local government that serves all our citizens. By defining the rules, procedures, and potential sanctions that would apply to political parties and independent councillors who govern together, we will ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability in our political system. As we agreed, as an outcome of the dialogue, political parties and civil society are expected to enhance the declaration and process a roadmap towards the development of the framework and subsequently leading into drafting of legislation to govern all coalition governments in South Africa. So, Chairperson, that's where we are now, and we are expecting feedback from all parties, and we will then finalize the report that will then be submitted to Parliament for adoption. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Honorable Mohai, first supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President, for your response. Deputy President, the challenges of municipal governance in South Africa is an ongoing concern, and in recent years, the emergence of coalition governments at municipal level has presented both opportunities and complexities in governance and political landscape as the country forges a path of effective governance with integrity. As South Africa navigates its complex political landscape, how do we ensure, Honorable Deputy President, that South Africa builds on the very successful session we had at the University of Western Cape to leverage the potential of coalitions and explore viable solutions to stabilize municipal governance through effective and integrity-based coalition governance framework that includes professionalizing the public service, transforming the system that supports municipalities in coalitions, developing a new culture and social contracts for coalitions which include thresholds and proposing of regulations for coalition governments. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Honorable Mohai. Honorable Mohai, you will recall that coalition governments in South Africa almost caught us unprepared. Right from the elections of 2016 in local government, that's where we realized that many parties had to work together. And since then, we've realized that there are a number of challenges at local government level where you have coalition government, and primarily because the rules were never clear. So at any locality, people will decide how they do it and try and negotiate at that level. And at some point, it came to reflect almost give and take. I'll take this, you'll take that. And that's why we thought, let's develop a framework and let's make it transparent. All parties must have an input and come with those set of principles that will say, once you are in that situation, these are the important things that you need to do. And amongst them is the issue of prioritizing the people. When you come into a coalition arrangement, is it designed to benefit the people? to advance service delivery. And we have now incorporated those in the framework where we say prioritize the people, prioritize service delivery, prioritize good governance, and then you can agree on who performs what role. And that's really where we are now. And as I said earlier, that political parties at the summit itself, or at the dialogue, agreed that they want to go back to their constituencies to consult once more, and they are going to come back, give us a feedback, and then we will be able to finalize the document. We are awaiting that. So far, the IFP has already responded. We are awaiting other parties to do the same, then we'll finalize the document. It's a very comprehensive approach because we're not doing it ad hoc. We're doing it for the future to be able to ensure stable government throughout the country. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy President. We proceed to the second supplementary question from Honorable Labuskachne.
Thank you very much, Chair. Deputy President, given that the ANC supported so many of the DA's proposals made at the National Coalition Dialogue, and you just highlighted that you're going to focus now in the frame that you're going to put together on benefit to the people, service delivery, and good governance that the DA is well known for, will the ANC then also support our coalition bills that are in Parliament now?
Deputy President.
Well, I noticed that at the dialogue that the DA was not far from us. And I'm sure the DA will say, we noticed that the ANC was not far from us. No, I think it's good when our thoughts converges, when we do good things. So we are not going to differ with the DA for the sake of it. Where we agree, we agree. But, Honorable Member, you'll recall that we did say at the summit itself that legislation will follow. We said it's the route that ultimately we're going to reach. But I think it was important that we come up with a set of minimum agreements that will be consolidated in this framework. And once that is done, you can then be able to put together legislation. So it was not only the DA, you'll recall, Honorable Member, that the Minister of COGTA also indicated that they were in a process of drafting legislation. And once we started this process, they then decided they are going to wait and then take the framework. So as soon as we are done with the consolidated report, the DA can use it how it fits. If you want to use it to draft some legislation, you can do so, but the Minister of COGTA is already doing so as well. It's not quite done yet. So what will happen is that once the framework is finalized, they will use it as a guide, and I'm sure the DA should feel free to make a contribution in that process. We thought that we should not rush into legislation. Let's allow this process to be completed, then we will move there. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll proceed to the third supplementary question from Muletsane. Honorable Muletsane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, do you admit that the opening of a national coalition dialogue by the ruling party is a sign of admission that your party performance in 2024 national election could be below 50%, and that this exercise is nothing but a desperate cling to power? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Honorable Mletsane, we have had that phrase many a times now, that what we're doing is really an acceptance that the ANC is going to come under 50% in the 2024 elections. Far from it. We decided as a National Executive Committee of the ANC that South Africa is already in coalition governments in many local authorities, as you know. In some of them, you work with us as the EFF. So we're already there. The coalitions are there. But the NEC said, please don't disturb him, he wants to hear me. Yes. The NEC then said, let's come up with clear set of rules. It was not so much about 2024, it was the now. Let's come up with a clear set of rules that will guide coalition governments. But as we do so now, we must come up with a framework that we can use even in the future. Any situation that arises, whether it's in the province or anywhere else, you now have a set of rules that will guide you. As you must have listened to, our president recently said, we are campaigning to win. 2024, we're going for victory.
Now, thank you very much, Deputy President. We will now proceed to the fourth follow-up question from Honorable De Bruin. Honorable De Bruin, it's virtual.
Honorable Chairperson. Deputy President, we also find it amusing that the ANC is suddenly taking an interest in discussing coalitions now when there's a real chance for the ANC losing the majority of the votes in 2024. However, Deputy President, trying to use legislation to keep a losing party from losing control over government and its resources, it will show that the ANC puts itself above democracy and the will of the people. So in light of that, Deputy President, can you give us assurance that legislation will under no circumstances be exploited to keep a party that is losing support in power by disadvantaging other parties? Thank you.
Deputy President.
No, Honorable Member, we are not interested in collisions now. As I said earlier, that in fact, when we had this problem in 2016, I was amongst people who were engaged in discussion around collisions, mandated by the ANC. At the time, I was still in Gauteng. Prominent amongst people who later worked with me around coalition, amongst others was Madame Helen Zille herself, who engaged in that. Then the EFF, Honorable Floyd Shibambu and all that. And I'm talking 2016. So it's not now. I'm saying we are now in a situation where we realize this thing is such a reality in our country that, in fact, at the moment, you have about 81 hung municipalities. So this has become so real that if we don't develop rules that guides all of us, we're going to have chaos, as we have seen in some areas and in different municipalities. So it's not about taking power from the people and so on and so on. It's about ensuring stability, good governance, effective service delivery, because then parties have the ground rules on how they cooperate, because they're already there. We can't wish it away. So I think it's good for leadership to be proactive. As we can see, the National Executive Committee of the ANC is very proactive in saying, let's put these rules so that we are not caught by surprise in any eventuality, whether it's a local government or provincial government. We need to have these rules in place. Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Honorable delegates, will now move on to question number 14. This question is on Section 154 intervention invoked. Section 154 intervention invoked. This question is from Honorable T.J. Protesef and is directed to the Deputy President. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I'm not aware that Ethekwini Metropolitan Municipality has refused to cooperate with the proposed implementation of Section 154 intervention as outlined in the Constitution. However, I'm aware that the Minister of COGTA, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, are working with various provincial and national sector departments such as National Treasury, Water and Sanitation, particularly to assist Ethekwini Metropolitan Municipality to address the challenges such as the recent flooding disasters that took place there, the looting that took place in KZN during the July 2021 unrest. The collaboration aims to support and strengthen the municipality, particularly about the damaged water and electricity infrastructure. This is because, as per Section 154(1) of the Constitution, national and provincial government must bolster the capabilities of municipalities in managing their affairs and carrying out their functions. Honorable Chairperson, Section 154 of the Constitution is important as it serves as a constitutional mechanism that effectively bolsters and fortifies the capacity or capabilities of our municipalities or cities. It enables national government and provincial government to support and strengthen municipalities in their responsibilities, critically to provide quality services to the people. So as far as I'm aware, Ethekwini has not said no to this support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will then proceed to the first supplementary question. Honorable Protesef.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Mr. Deputy President, your response reminds me of a term coined by Aristotle called akrasia, which refers to the unerring propensity to always make the worst possible decision. The fact of the matter is that Ethekwini officials under the ANC government refused to cooperate with the Section 154 administrators. That is why I'm standing here today as a representative of KZN and representing one of our major metros. Mr. Deputy President, the real picture on the ground is as follows. Ethekwini is experiencing a crisis primarily driven by the actions of the ANC and their coalition partners, the EFF. Service delivery has ground to a halt. Sewage flows down the streets. Water and electricity outages are now a daily occurrence. In response to this crisis, the ANC and the EFF have so far budgeted 11 million rand for parties. They are about to increase the salary of the city manager to 3.9 million rand per year. That's more than the president. And as a result, ratepayers are starting to withhold their money. This coalition of chaos and corruption has reduced Ethekwini to a foul-smelling rubbish island in a sea of sewage. A true kakistocracy, another Greek word. There can only be one solution, Mr. Deputy President, and that solution is administration. You spoke earlier of your willingness to cooperate for the good of communities. And I ask you today, my question to you, sir, will you today accept my invitation to come to Ethekwini and to see this crisis for yourself so that you can lend support to the urgent intervention that is now required? I thank you, Chair.
Very much. Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Member, I will be in KZN next month. And when I'm in KZN, I will visit Ethekwini to check for myself what's happening. But let me tell you that a government has been intervening. I'm dealing with this issue that you are saying they are refusing. I've already said the Minister of COGTA is already working with them, with the Minister of Water and other relevant ministers. In fact, last year already, in September, the Ethekwini was assisted because of the disasters, was assisted with 185 million rands from the Municipal Disaster Response Grant. And again, this year in March, with another 1.5 billion rand to be able to deal with this challenge. Because remember, it's not that they have these challenges because they can't do their work. There was disaster in that place. And I think sometimes we take it easy. The leadership of Ethekwini are trying to come out of disaster. And they are doing their best to do that work. So they are not refusing. In fact, they come from Section 139 before, where there were interventions. Section 154 is actually support. And it would be very strange that they refuse support when they need it the most. So yes, you have your own impression about what's happening there. We'll look at it. But as far as I know, they've welcomed this support, and we're going to support them. They must turn around the situation. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We will then proceed to the second supplementary question from Honorable China Dodovu.
Thank you very much, Honorable DP, for your elaborate response. I may just hasten to say, Honorable DP, that it is not Ethekwini that is in crisis and in chaotic state, but it is Tshwane Metro Municipality that is led by the DA. The AG has declared it as the worst performing metropolitan municipality. Its debts has accumulated to more than 4 billion rands. As we speak, workers are on strike, and ESCOM and Rainwater is owed a lot of money. Now, Honorable DP, in the light of the fact that both the national and provincial governments are committed to support and strengthen the capacity of Ethekwini municipality.
Honorable Dodovu, just a second. Honorable brought this on what point they were raising?
Chairperson, I'm writing on the very important point that the follow-up question has got to be linked to the original question. The original question is specifically about Ethekwini, and he's talking about Tshwane. He's talking about Tshwane. No. This is an Ethekwini question, and he's talking about Tshwane. There's no relationship.
If I may just call for patience, honorable members. Order and then patience. As far as I could listen, Honorable Dodovu was still in his way putting forward a question.
Thank you, Chair.
Just patience to listen until the question is taken. Please proceed.
Honorable
There's no
DP.
point of order.
Honorable DP, in the light of the fact that both the national government and provincial government are committed to support and strengthen the capacity of Ethekwini Metropolitan Municipality to deal with the challenges facing it, what are the specific support measures and capacities that both the sphere of government will implement in terms of Section 154 of the Constitution to help this municipality to achieve its objectives of providing services to the people, of resolving the problems caused by the floods and the violence that ensued in the area of its jurisdiction in 2021?
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Dodovu, as I said earlier, there are already various interventions taking place at Ethekwini, led by the national government. As I said earlier, the Minister of COGTA herself is leading those interventions. What we're trying to do there is to ensure that there are collaborative efforts from the Premier, leading the provincial government, from national government, to work with Ethekwini. I've already indicated the grants that have been provided, but also there's a municipal disaster, the municipal disaster recovery grant that has been sent recently to them. But there's a team that is working with the province there to ensure that we help Ethekwini to really come out of that situation and be able to focus on ensuring that they deliver services. We also are going to use the district development model to be able to strengthen work there. I was in Ethekwini not long ago when I went to engage in the district development model there. The Premier was there. In fact, most of provincial government was there, and Ethekwini itself. And we are beginning to ensure that we can prioritize service delivery there. So, Honorable Dodovu, we are already on the ground there. So it's not just what we are thinking. These interventions are already there. The ministers are already there on the ground, and I will also be going to KZN next month. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll proceed to the third supplementary question from Honorable Khatebe. It's virtual. Honorable Khatebe.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy President. As a party, we have long called for Ethekwini municipality to be placed under administration instead of a Section 154 intervention, as this intervention has been implemented in other municipalities in the province without much success. Honorable Deputy President, please provide details as to why you are convinced that this intervention will be successful in Ethekwini municipality when it failed dismally in Msunduzi municipality. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Khatebe, I obviously have not checked what happened in Msunduzi. So I can't say that because they didn't succeed in Msunduzi, they won't succeed in Ethekwini. Normally, we place municipalities under administration when all else has failed. So it's not the beginning, it's the end. So national government, in terms of the Constitution, is obliged or obligated to provide support. Only if that fails, you then put it under administration. So yes, if Ethekwini fails after all these interventions we are making, we will have no choice but to go the same route of putting them under administration. But that's not where you begin. That's where you end. And that has been the approach throughout the country. You start by providing support, work with them, and if all else fail, then you go to Section 139, you put them under administration. That's how the system works. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. We'll now proceed to the fourth supplementary question from Honorable Lutuli. Honorable Lutuli?
Honorable Chair.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. In light of the challenges faced in Ethekwini municipality, which time frame have been put in place to implement interventions? Ke a leboga, Modulasetulo.
Only time frames. Oh.
Yes, Deputy President.
No, aska bueletsa ke mo utlwile. We check what is our time frame. Look, normally when you do interventions, it depends on the severity of the problem. But in most cases, interventions at those levels don't go beyond 6 months to be able to be sure that the municipality can be able to run on its own. You may take longer where the situation is dire, but the sooner the councillors in the area, the executive mayor and the MMC take over 100%, the better. So we're not intending to get national government to live in Ethekwini. We want to go in and out. And I'm sure that the Minister of Kokta knows that the President will want a result within the next 6 months. If they can do it in 3 months, the better. But sometimes it takes longer, especially if you have to change systems, etc. But I'm convinced that in most cases, you won't even need longer than 6 months if you're providing good support. If you're putting under the administration, it may take a bit longer because that's a different story now. You are now taking over. And in some instances, when a municipality is put under administration, it goes until the next election, where you now have a new leadership. But if it's support, it's easy to go in and come out within reasonable time. So I would say no more than 6 months.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We will now proceed to question number 15. This question is on rapid response on crime. Rapid response on crime. The question is being asked by Honorable Nkosi, directed to the Deputy President. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Nkosi. Honorable Chairperson, in 2020, the government passed what is called the Border Management Authority Act into law. And this law paved the way for the establishment of the Border Management Authority, BMA. The BMA is mandated by legislation to do, amongst others, the following: facilitate and manage the legitimate movement of persons within the borders and law enforcement area at the ports of entry. That's the first thing. Second one, facilitate and manage the legitimate movement of goods within the border or within the border law enforcement area and the ports of entry, and also cooperate and coordinate the border law enforcement functions with organs or other organs of the state. So in other words, the police, the army, etc. But in particular, the law provides that they should also cooperate and coordinate with border communities, which is very important because often we think that law enforcement must be left to the police and the army, but the law particularly stresses the issue of the involvement of communities along those areas. They have to be involved. And of course, other persons of interest. Now, Chairperson, in the process of its work, the Border Management Agency has intercepted thousands of individuals attempting to enter the country illegally. So they've already achieved it. And they also recovered numerous stolen items in their work. We are also taking additional measures now to ensure that public safety in cross-border communities or townships, and also in our own townships here and informal settlements, these additional measures are put in place by increasing the number of officers, in other words, police and so on, who should work and be visible in our streets and creating specialized teams where necessary. So if you go to the borders, you'll find that there are a number of border management police that are working in those areas, and they are very visible. But we thought it should be a trend throughout the country, not just in the borders. Last year, the South African police itself committed to recruiting 12,000 new police personnel. And since then, over 10,000 recruits have already graduated. So in other words, they have now been deployed to these areas. So as government, we are determined to tackle the issue of violent crime and other forms of criminality or criminal activity in a very proactive manner. We are actively pursuing national, provincial, and local measures to prevent crime and ensure that all individuals in our country feel safe and they are secure. We believe that working together as government, civil society, and the private sector, we can make meaningful progress in creating safer communities. Chairperson, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll proceed to the first supplementary question from Honorable Nkosi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to you, DP. And DP, thank you very much for the detailed response to my question. Deputy President, during various oversight visits and engagements of the NCOP to cross-border communities, many police stations made a plea for appropriate resources that will enable them to effectively deal with the cross-border crimes such as high-terrain vehicles, high-caliber weapons, aerial surveillance, tools and technology, as well as more human resources. DP, is government looking at targeted funding to resource cross-border police stations to have adequate necessary tools to wage a concerted battle against cross-border crime? Thank you very much.
Yes. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Nkosi. Yes, indeed. The Minister of Police recently made a presentation to the President and myself on how they are going to improve policing and what they need in order to do so. I said earlier that they plan to train 12,000. They've already done 10,000, but he indicated that they want to, in a way, take another 10,000 new recruits. So they are increasing the numbers. But you're quite right. It's not just about personnel, it's also about equipment. We said in the meeting with the president to the minister that we must also improve the way we do policing, because criminals are advanced now. So we can't do policing the old way. We need to have new equipment that can be deployed. For instance, if you police borders, our borders can be very long distances. So if you are just to rely on personnel, you have to deploy thousands of people. So you mitigate that by deploying equipment. In other countries, for instance, they use drones to be able to check what's happening on their borders and be able to get information. So we are doing the same now. We're getting more equipment, but let me not say what Begikele is ordering. He will say that himself. But we're going to do policing in a modern way, so that the criminals are not ahead of us. We must at all times be ahead of the criminals in the way we're policing. So we are strengthening border management, working with communities there, deploying equipment, necessary equipment, but everywhere else, we have to ensure that police are well equipped and are visible. Because sometimes visible policing helps. We saw during the World Cup, there were police everywhere, and that's what we are going to do, but we'll make sure that they are well resourced. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll proceed to the second supplementary question from Honorable Du Toit.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Deputy President, your focus is clearly on rapid response plans in areas such as border towns, townships, and informal settlements, as you alluded to now. And knowing that the scourge of brutal farm attacks has been taking place non-stop since 1994, in fact, the Human Rights Watch has described the general trend of escalating farm attacks since 1994 and noted a lack of government response to them. Now, some of the statistics that were released by the Transvaal Agricultural Union that I want to mention to this House. January, 18 attacks, 2 murders. February, 15 farm attacks, 2 murders. March, 17 farm attacks, 4 murders. April, 8 farm attacks, 6 murders. May, 9 farm attacks, 2 murders. June, 12 farm attacks, 10 murders. July, 15 farm attacks with 4 murders. And up until the 22nd of August, 10 farm attacks and 2 murders. It's not just murders that take place and people that's being assaulted, it's the brutality that goes along with this. People being tortured for up to 3 and 6 hours at a time, burnt with cooking oil. That's what's taking place, Mr. Deputy President. Knowing all this, what rapid response measures have you put in place to prevent and combat farm murders, knowing that not only human lives, but food security is hanging in the balance? I want to put it to you, Deputy President, that it's not only white farmers that's being affected by this, but farmers of all color that's being tortured and humiliated and killed as a result of the crime that's escalating. If you could please answer that. Thank you, DP.
President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Honorable Du Toit. When we had a discussion with the Minister of Police about crime in the country, there are a number of areas that we asked him to particularly look at. Farm attacks and murderers were one of them that we asked him to look at. Zamazamas was one of the areas that we said he should look at. If you look at what's happening now, already with Zamazamas, they are moving in a big way, the police. And we expect that they will do the same with the attack, not only on farmers, but on people who live in those farming communities. Because often people think that we are just concerned about farmers. No, we are concerned about everybody. Because these murders and attacks is also ordinary people who work on the farms. They need to be protected. So this is something that the minister is working on. We will give you a detailed response on it, because the minister has been involved in what they call Operation Shanyela. What is Shanyela in Afrikaans? In English is to sweep, fiela. Yeah. So in other words, is taking no nonsense. They want to clean, deal with crime decisively, and you're quite right that the efforts that we put in fighting crime in urban areas should be extended to the farming communities. I think it's fair that should be done, and it is been done. We will get a report from the minister. It's just that sometimes and you must bear with me, sometimes the way the police work, they don't want you to talk about their operations in detail. So sometimes it's difficult to me to say, no, they are going to do this and this, because some of the things are planned for them to be ahead of the criminals. So all you'll find sometimes from the Minister of Police will be just a sentence that says, we are attending to that. And don't want to ask for more, because you may compromise their operations once you start telling what they are planning. But I can assure you that the farming community is not forgotten. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, DP. We'll proceed to the third supplementary question that comes from Honorable Lamini of the EFF. Honorable Lamini.
Chairperson, I'll take it on her behalf.
Okay. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, in light of alarming high crime rate in this country, which seems to be spiraling out of control, is the Deputy President confident that the South African Police Service is properly led with sufficient skills and knowledge of what needs to be done to tackle crime problem in this country? Thank you, Chairperson.
Deputy President.
I'm not sure when you mean it's properly led, you mean we have a right minister or a right commissioner or everything? Yeah, no, we do. Yeah, no, we have the right people. Yeah, we have the right people. And they have a strategy. They've already given us the strategy. I can't tell the details. The strategy is there. You will see, watch the space. You're going to see. Yeah, we have the right people there. Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Now we move to the last and the fourth supplementary question from Honorable Labuskachne.
Thank you very much, Chair. Deputy President, the evidence is there that an effective safety plan supported by well-trained, accepted and respected LEAP officers, especially in hotspot crime areas, contributes to the decrease of crimes as shown in the Western Cape stats recently released. Mr. Deputy President, would you as the leader of government business please be a brave leader and commit today to either ignore or override the ego of the Minister of Police and move to implement an effective safety plan, including the model of well-trained LEAP officers that can be trusted by the community to bring safety and the solving of crimes in the most needed areas of our country.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Member, as I said earlier, 10,000 already trained effectively. In fact, if I'm correct, the President was at the parade not long ago of these officers. Those of you who watch TV must have seen these officers who were parading. Honorable Member, they are all newly trained, those who saw. I think it was last week, Friday, I'm not sure. You saw them? Yeah. No, not Mapanyaza, the newly trained one, the 10,000. I'll come to the Mapanyaza later. So those have been trained and trained effectively. So I have no doubt that you will get effective policing. They have been trained in modern equipments and everything else. But I think we must also not despise Amapanyaza. They are doing a good job. Yes. You know, in the spirit of community policing, that's what you need. People, because most of them, Honorable Member, they come from those communities. So they are not hired elsewhere. And there's nothing as good as people policing their own space. And that's something good about Amapanyaza is that one. That these are volunteers who are in their own space and doing everything in their own space. I think we should praise them, actually. In fact, someone, chairperson, was asking me, why don't we roll out this all over the country? And
order, honorable members. I know that the issue is an exciting one.
It's an exciting issue.
But let's hear the responses from the DP.
Yes, let me just conclude by saying I think fighting crime must always be a community effort. And I think what's happening in Gauteng should really be replicated everywhere where you're involved. You may call them different names, Ntatem Sima, and maybe in the Western Cape they might give them your name. But I think it's important to involve communities, and I see it in that light. The issue of what happens if they do something wrong, remember this is a collaborative effort with the state. It's not just people who are running around. Because this is a program designed by the Premier, it's a collaboration with the state. And that's why the police must find a way of working with them, like they are doing with Community Policing Forum. There are sometimes police who think, we are a single national police, we don't want these people. But fighting crime has to be a collaborative effort at all times. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Honorable members, we will now proceed to question number 16. 16. The question is on accountability of those in power. Accountability of those in power. The question comes from Honorable Mukause and is directed to the Deputy President. Honorable Mukause.
I must respond first.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay, Mam Kaus.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, let me respond. Mam Kaus will come in with the follow-up. Honorable Chairperson, when we responded to a similar question in the National Assembly in March of this year, I think it was on the 23rd of March, we gave a response that I'll probably also try and reiterate here. In my considered view, Chairperson, Parliament has not refused to respond to the specific allegations. And I think we must underline that has not refused. Instead, Parliament embarked on a process which was subsequently concluded in line with the rules of Parliament. And I also want to underline concluded, because I know there are people who think this matter must go on and on and on. Concluded in December last year. It may well be that, as is their right, some members of this House do not agree with that determination of Parliament or what our Parliament ultimately reached. Such reservation or unhappiness as may exist can and should be dealt with within the rules and ambit of Parliament or within the rules of Parliament. As honorable members may be aware, the South African Revenue Services, the Public Protector, and the South African Reserve Bank have dealt with the Phala allegations and issued statement in terms of their own findings. And I think all members here are aware of that, those findings. I don't have to tell you about them. So, Honorable Chairperson, let me once again state that this government and our President, President Cyril Ramaphosa, have committed to be subjected to all processes by our Constitution and the laws of the country. We reiterate our support for the rules of the National Assembly as agreed and adopted by the House. We also reiterate our support for all Chapter 9 and Chapter 10 institutions and other law enforcement agencies who continue to hold those in power accountable. Chairperson, we further emphasize that state and law enforcement agencies must be allowed and be given enough space to complete their work without undue pressure or any form of interference. And lastly, when they are done, we should accept the results. Because I know there are those, when work is done, they start saying, I know, hey, these people are biased, whatever. No. Let's respect these institutions. In any case, it's us, members of Parliament, who have established these institutions. Let's allow them, they operate independently. Once they make their findings, we should accept that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DP. Honorable Mukause, first supplementary question.
Chairperson,
Yes.
I will take it on her behalf. Definitely, she's experiencing ANC load shedding. Deputy President, both the Public Protector and the South African Reserve Bank have exonerated Mr. Ramaphosa from any wrongdoing relating to Phala. This is so despite the fact that no one disputes that there was undeclared foreign currency on his farm, and that the independent panel appointed by Parliament found that he had a prima facie case to answer. The perception created, therefore, is that state institutions are being used to cover up criminality by the head of state, which is the ultimate form of state capture. The current public protector is unashamedly the president's protector. So are other state institutions. As deputy president, what risk does the hollowing out of state institutions in this way pose to the sustainability of our democracy and the rule of law? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Maybe, Honorable, through you, Chairperson, Honorable Member, maybe let me reiterate what I said earlier, that once you appoint institutions, you give them powers, they operate independently. I don't think it's fair to come back and say, no, we don't like your findings. What about if they said the president is wrong? You are going to be happy? Yes. You are going to say, viva public protect. So that's where the problem is. These are independent institutions. Let's allow them to do their work. They didn't consult the ANC. They didn't consult the president. They did their work. And they are now saying, we are done. Here are the results. So let's not use perceptions. Let's use facts, because perceptions can mislead you. The facts are there before us. They have concluded their work, and let's accept that. That will be my view. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, JP. We will now proceed to the second supplementary question from Honorable Bacher.
Thank you, Chairperson. DP, you often tell us that you are committed to stop corruption, fight crime, and hold those in power accountable to rebuild the hope and trust of the nation. That is, however, against the backdrop of yourself being involved in a controversial situation recently. Against the backdrop of the Phala and many other debacles, the DA has proposed new Chapter 9 institution as Scorpions 2.0, but it will need the ANC to vote with us in order to pass the bill. As the chair of the Cabinet Committee on Justice, Crime Prevention and Security, will you be supporting this initiative, or would you opt for properly funding and capacitating the NPA to ensure that we restore the credibility of our criminal justice institutions? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Honorable Member, for the questions. The funding of institutions is our priority. It's not only the NPA. We want all law enforcement agencies to be funded properly, and we are doing so. They are all being funded to the extent that the fiscus can, we are able to provide those resources. Yes, the issue of corruption is top on our agenda as government. And you as members of parliament must hold all of us accountable. You just indicated that there's controversial issue that affects me, and I'm sure you are free to call me to Parliament and put it to me. What is that controversial issue? Then we deal with it. We as leaders are not afraid to be accountable. That's what we should do. But what members should not do is to join gossip. You see, journalists live on gossip because people run and buy newspapers. Say, did you hear? No, this is an honorable house. And an honorable house must not reduce itself to gossip. When leaders are here, put the facts before them. Honorable Deputy President, we hear you are a thief, you stole this. Not gossip. Let's be accountable properly. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you very much. We'll now proceed to the third supplementary question from Honorable Hadebe. Which one?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President, what assurance can you give South Africans that it will not become common cause for senior officials to be granted a remission for their sentences? Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Deputy President?
Sorry, Honorable Hadebe says senior what?
Senior officials,
Senior officials like who?
senior government officials,
Like who?
like let me repeat
I'm not
my
sure of
question.
any
so that-
senior government official who was granted remission. I thought it was people who were in prison. The President, working with the Minister of Justice, came to a conclusion that there are certain categories of prisoners who should be released. And I don't think that they wanted to release some government official or some, they said not prisoners, people who are charged. And because there are people who are in prison at the moment, some with very minor charges, and there isn't even space. So they had to come to a conclusion that, in their view, this category of prisoners can, in fact, now been released. I don't know of any government official amongst them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll proceed to the last supplementary question from Honorable BB.
Ngibonge sihlalo wendlu ngibingelela ukusekela mongameli. Sekela mongameli namhlanje ngizokusho ngesizulu. Ngoba ngifuna ukuthi bacaciseleke abalendlu nalo okubuze lo mbuzo ukuthi khamba kanjani. Deputy President, it is clear that despite the investigations and findings that have cleared the President, there are those who are continuing to use the Pala matter as a political and electionary tool to try and score cheap political points. These distractors have nothing concrete to say against the President, who has fully cooperated and continue to cooperate with all investigations and continue to respect the Constitution and law of the Republic. Sekela President wam. Now, what measures is our government putting in place to ensure that all citizens, particularly members of Parliament, understand that we are constitutionally democracy where we all have to respect institutions established by our democracy, such as Chapter 9 institutions. They respect the rule of law, and we raise awareness that our country has appropriate measures to fight and finally defeat crime and corruptions. Injalo baba, ngiyazi uyiphendulile. Ngiyabonga.
Deputy President?
Mama, I can't agree with you more. you've just covered me. Yours doesn't need a response because injalo. We have appointed institutions, we must respect them when they come with findings. We accept the findings of the public protector, we accept the findings of SARS, we accept the finding, which is the other one, the Reserve Bank. We accept all of them because they did this with integrity. They were transparent, they investigated. We are with you, Mama. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We now move to the next question, and this is question 17. This question is on assault on civilians. Assault on civilians. Question is from Mr. G, Honorable G. Mikalakis, and it's directed to the Deputy President. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. On the 16th of August this year, the Minister of Police appeared before the Portfolio Committee on Police to brief members of the committee on this matter. Let me reiterate what he said before the Portfolio Committee, and I want to quote him. He said the following: "The convoy of the Deputy President normally has 7 cars, 6 from the SAPS and 1 from the South African National Defence Force, which in most cases is a medical car. The Deputy President was in the convoy, but not on the crime scene, where 2 of his cars pulled off to deal with that matter." This is how he answered it. Now, I want to confirm that, Honorable Chairperson, that indeed it is true that I was not there, because the cars that carry the President and the Deputy President don't stop for anything. I'm sure members know that. We don't even stop in a red robot. So it would have been very strange if my car had stopped there and I'm busy watching what is happening. It would have been very strange. So when I became aware of this incident, I was actually home already, because the car doesn't stop, so you don't see what's happening. But perhaps just to be fair, Honorable Chairperson, is that this matter is now in court, and it may be very difficult to engage on it. It's sub judice. You know, when people appear in court and we are busy saying things, it's a problem. But members can be assured that I was not there on the scene. I think that's really what we want to clarify. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Deputy President, first supplementary question will come from Honorable Mikalakis.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Deputy President, 7 cars filled with little stormtroopers to keep you safe. I wanted to ask you, what are you so afraid of?
Yes, Hi.
Chair, in terms of Rule 64 of the NCOP rules, matters pending before the courts, no delegate may reflect on the merits of any matter on which a judicial decision is pending.
No, yes.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Chairperson.
I hope as Honourable Khai has said, we're going to look carefully at the boundaries and so on, but allow you to speak.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. The key word in that rule is merit, and it would serve the member well to first listen to my question before he jumps to any conclusions. May I just repeat my initial phrase? 7 cars filled with little stormtroopers to protect you, Deputy President. My question initially would have been, what are you so afraid of? And then I remembered that the people out there are hungry. They are left in the dark. They are jobless. And they're not stupid. They know that you have been governing this country for the last 30 years. So then I remembered you have every reason to be afraid of the public.
Honourable Mikalakis.
To get to my question.
Honourable Mikalakis.
Yes, Chair.
And this really has been a problem for a while. And we don't want to give this house a bad name and to give the impression that the suppression and people can't speak as they want, can't be forthright and so on and so forth. But really there is a problem about using the time allocated for posing questions to make speeches. So I'm going to really appeal to members. I'll come back to this issue later on, but I'm just saying, please, let's avoid that kind of a route. But before we proceed, please, let's hear Honourable Nyambi. On what point they are raising Honourable Nyambi?
Thanks, Chair. I think you have been very generous and you have handled the issue properly, Chairperson. And the DP was generous to just clarify exactly as the rule read by Honourable High. We are honourable members and we have got nothing to lose. The issue is in court. The DP is not going anywhere. Any other day, once the court has pronounced, we'll have ample time to do justice to the question. But what we're trying to achieve now, it will be a sad day when as honourable members and arm of state, as a legislature, we're trying to undermine our very same rules, because Rule 64, if we are reading it carefully and not selectively, we'll understand. But after the generous comment that has been made by the DP, my humble plea, Chair, is that let's agree that it is against Rule 64 to deal with the matter that is still in court and we don't have a final verdict of the matter.
Chair. Chair.
Yeah.
I have a point of order, please.
Yes. Honourable Labuskachne.
Thank you very much, Chair.
On what point are you raising, Honourable Labuskachne?
I rise on the point of freedom of speech and then also on the point of the fact that there are rules. First of all...
Just repeat that again, yeah? I couldn't hear what you're saying.
I'm rising on the point of the freedom of speech, the rule that writes the freedom of speech. I want to start off by first, if Honourable Michalakis could not ask this question, then the question office should have not put this on the paper to start off. So could you, as the chair, bring the administration of this House then into order? Because it's the third question in this term, or in this year. It's the third time that we have the same problem. So sort that out, please. Then secondly, there's no rule in this book that says what you can say and not say in the 2 minutes allowed to ask a question. It's also a practice now that when the ANC stand up, they can say anything, they can rule anything, and none of the presiding officers, the one that's closest to that is Honourable Nyambi, trying to solve that, and today you're not too bad, Chair, but with all due respect, the ANC can say what they want, they can protect themselves, and when the DA or any other party in this House stands up and do things, you make a rule, or the presiding officers in the chair makes rules that are not in this rule book. So this is undermining the democracy in this House. And the presiding officers are responsible for that.
Honorable members, there's always a danger that we stray onto debating a matter, even before the matter itself is put on the table. I'm going to allow Honorable Mikalakis to briefly put forward the question.
Thank you, Chairperson. My question will also not relate to the incident itself. My question relates to the Deputy President and where he was, so I will not touch on the merits of the case. Now, Deputy President, you indicated that you were at home when you became aware of the incident. It's interesting how your version changed from what it initially was to be in line with what the Deputy President said, with what the Minister of Police said. But are you then saying when you found out about the incident you were at home, that at no time during your journey was the incident communicated on the radio frequency in your car, because you would have heard that? And what did you do then when you became aware of this incident to ensure that action is taken? Thank you very much.
Deputy President.
Those matters are being raised in court. Yes. No. The same matters are being raised in court. I think the member is not listening.
Honorable Chair.
Honorable members.
Honorable Chair, order please.
Order, honorable members. Let's hear what the Deputy President has to say.
Yes.
And here's the response.
I'm saying, Honorable Chair, he wanted to know where I am. I said I was home. Now he goes back to the scene. When the car was there, the radio, these are the matters that are in court. That's the reason, that's why as a second, listen, that's why as the second paragraph in my response, I said, yes, I was at home first time I heard. But because this matter is now in court, let's not go into it. Because those are the same questions that are being asked in court.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deputy President. We will proceed to the second supplementary question from Honorable Shaik.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much, Deputy President, for your response. Deputy President, yes, we do respect the sub judice status of the matter, and the ANC government, Deputy President, I believe,
Order, honourable members. Order, honourable members.
Question, Deputy President.
Just a second, Honourable Shaik. I must say that, and I've said this many times in the past, that there's nothing wrong with a bit of heckling here and there and so on. The nature of the House, debate in politics. But there's definitely something wrong when you heckle and make noise to such an extent that we can't hear a member putting forward his or her own views, or as in this instance, asking a question. Honorable Shaik.
Once again, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Deputy President, my question is, does government, especially the South African police services, have programs and platforms that are geared towards sensitizing the presidential protection services on the rights of citizens and how to better interact with citizens while ensuring that the safety of their political principles are ensured? Thank you very much.
Deputy President.
I suggest we deal with it some other time. And I'll tell you what, all these matters are coming up in court. Same thing. The guys are being asked, have you been trained? What training? We're now going to become a court of law today. I think let's leave this matter, honorable members. It will come at the right time because we are straddling very thin to what the court is doing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll now proceed to the third supplementary question that will come from Honorable De Bruin. Honorable De Bruin.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, part of your duties and responsibilities are to promote social cohesion, chair the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Committee, and you were appointed by the President to lead peace missions on the continent. And your Presidential Protection Service personnel are well aware of your duties and your responsibilities. Now, Deputy President, surely they are aware of the fact that their actions directly impact your social and public image. And knowing all of this, how is it possible that these members acted the way they did if they knew that you would not condone their actions? And would you have reacted in public if the incident was not recorded? Thank you.
Deputy President.
I think honorable members are not listening. Maybe I should have said it in Afrikaans, just that I can't speak Afrikaans. Asseblief toch, I wanted to say in Afrikaans that this matter has been dealt with in court. I know it's the Kantoor. Honorable member, this matter can come back after the court is done. Because when you deal with the matter that is in court...
Deputy President, just a second. I see the way you want to speak. On what point I raise?
Chair, with all respect to the Deputy President, the question that my colleague Honourable De Bruin posed doesn't speak to the merit at all. It speaks to the integrity of the Deputy President, to an incident that took place that is currently in court, but the question that he needs to answer
I've asked you a question. On what point I raise?
Deputy President is avoiding to answer questions with regards to his integrity.
Deputy President, please proceed.
Yes, let me conclude. I was saying that, I listened to the honorable member. He's saying your duties in the continent, do these members know this? You're talking about them again. And I'm saying they are in court. And we now want to be the second court. Can we allow the real court to finish the issue? And then the Honorable House can come and ask me any question. You may even ask me what did I eat that day before I left home. It's okay. But don't ask about them, because they are in court. Once you start saying these members, this and that, you are straddling into that issue.
Thank you very much.
Let's leave it there.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The fourth supplementary question will come from Honorable Mletsane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, this demonstrates how crime and violence are an everyday experience for many South Africans at the hands of police. Any support offered to the victims and their families? Thank you, Chair.
Can you just repeat the question again, Honorable Mletsane? Honorable Mletsane, I'm requesting you to repeat the question again. To please restate the question.
Thank you, Chair. The Deputy President, this demonstrates how crime and violence are an everyday experience for many South Africans at the hands of police. My question is there any support offered to the victims and their families?
Deputy President.
The matter is sub judice.
Yes, no, thank you very much. Honorable members, we will now order. Honorable members will now proceed to the last question for the day. The question is question number 18, 18. The question is on restoration of democracy in Niger. Restoration of democracy in Niger. Honorable Deputy President. The question is posed by Honorable Dango and is directed to Deputy President. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, following the July 26 coup in Niger, South Africa publicly expressed its condemnation and reiterated its commitment to and support of various AU policy decisions which expressly reject change of government by unconstitutional means. We continue to work within the AU system, especially the continental bodies, Peace and Security Council, of which we are a member, which has intervened in countries where there has been coups by suspending their membership from the Security Council. There are two issues that warrant our consideration. The first is the complexity of the situation in Niger. Although it neither justifies the coup nor suggests that it is representative of the overwhelming opinion of the people of Niger, parts of the civilian population have publicly expressed support for that change. Niger's neighbors have also expressed themselves, some in ways that are unprecedented. For example, in Mali and Burkina Faso have warned that they will consider any external military intervention in Niger as a declaration of war against them. For their part, and even though they are not members of ECOWAS, Chad, Algeria, who both share borders with Niger, have expressed opposing views on the use of force. Okay, so there are different reactions. All this suggests that discretion is a better part of virtue. We should privilege diplomacy and more diplomacy. The second issue that warrants our consideration is that the phenomenon of coups is becoming more accentuated than it was at least 20 years ago in the continent. It is worth mentioning that since August 2020, the continent has had 8 coups, this being in Mali, Guinea, Sudan, Burkina Faso, Niger, and now recently Gabon. Mali had 2 coups in 9 months, first on August 18, 2020, and the second May 24, 2021. Burkina Faso has also had 2 in 8 months, January 2022, and another one on the 30th of September of the same year. This begs a fundamental question which all of us must answer. What are the driving factors for these coups we are witnessing today, in which the countries on the continent do this, and do these factors obtain what should be done to address them to avoid the abyss of military coups? So it's something that we're busy looking at. Chairperson, the last part was on Sudan. South Africa is presently not engaged in peace initiatives in Sudan. We are nevertheless committed to the search for a peaceful solution to the conflict in Sudan and stand ready to provide our good offices to this end. On July 23rd, this year, President Cyril Ramaphosa met with Mr. Malik Agai Yangoufa, the Deputy President of the Transitional Sovereign Council of Sudan, to discuss what could be done on the ongoing conflict. But we are definitely involved in South Sudan, where the President has appointed me as his special envoy, and I've just returned from South Sudan last week, Friday. In South Sudan, there is ceasefire. They are now preparing for elections in 2024, December. So I had an opportunity to meet with all parties, including the President, and they are all committed to peace. There is a revitalized agreement that they are following. There is a bit of tension because other parties thought the time frame may be short, but we've agreed let's work towards peace so that South Sudan can have its election and begin to focus on development rather than conflict. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. First supplementary question will come from Honorable Dango.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Deputy President, thank you very much for your response. However, in addition to meeting with the AU's Peace and Security Council, has the executive met with regarding the reform of the United Nations Security Council, regarding the challenges in Africa, with African solutions to African challenges? As experience, external intervention is not always in the interest of African peoples, e.g., the ongoing crisis in Libya out to date. Thank you, Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dango. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you, Ambassador Dango, Honorable Dango. No, you're quite right. In fact, we have agreed that Africa must have African solutions. Let me give an example. For instance, on South Sudan, there's a C5, which is ourselves, South Africa, is Kenya, Egypt, Burkina Faso, Djibouti, and Tanzania. But what has happened is that the leaders have agreed that the African leaders must come together to deal with these issues. In fact, President Ramaphosa chairs the meetings of the C5 appointed by IGDAT. And they are busy now focusing on these issues. Not only will they end in South Sudan, they will look at the other places. But in South Sudan in particular, Honorable Dango, the C5 is seized with the matter. But the other agencies are there as well. When I was in South Sudan, I had the opportunity to meet with the United Nations mission in South Sudan. So they are already there. The AU is there and many other bodies, but they respect the fact that South Africa is taking a lead on this matter. We did have an opportunity to talk about the representation in the Security Council, but as you may be aware that UNCTAD is meeting now in September, and the President is going there with Minister Pando, and they will be dealing with these issues. But I'm confident that we should have elections in South Sudan by end of next year to bring about lasting peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The next supplementary question, is the second supplementary question, is from Honorable Mutamai.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy President, ke mekgwa efe ya go nna le seabe mo Republicing ya Niger? As the assets, they are independent from colonial France. What measures have been put in place to ensure that other African states also receive support as they free themselves from colonial powers? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Msamai. Deputy President.
Is that Honorable Msamai? Honorable Msamai, thank you for the question. If you listened earlier, I said that there were different responses. There were those who were saying, no, these soldiers are wrong. We must go and intervene militarily. The others were saying not. South Africa's position has not been to encourage military intervention. But we are very clear that coming into power through coups is not in line with our values and the values of the AU. So we are not saying the people of Niger do not deserve change. We saw them in the streets ululating, happy they want change. But the principle is that change should come through democratic means. And that, I mean, I'm sure you have heard that the general who was leading a coup has immediately said he's going to allow elections so that the power goes to civilians. We do want changes in Africa. You know, the wind of change is blowing, but it must be through democratic means. That's why the ceasefire in South Sudan, they are going to elections. So it should be in all other countries. So South Africa stands ready to be counted to those who support change, but change through democratic processes of elections so that the people must decide their destiny. So we're not going to condemn the people when they ululate, when there's a coup, but we must be able to reiterate the fact that that's not the way in which change should come. Because you can say there are many other countries in Africa where there should be change. But we will support if those regimes call for democratic elections. We stand ready to support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll proceed to the third supplementary question from Honorable Hatebe. Which one?
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President, how are these interventions or responses, as the Honorable Deputy President has put it, not indicative of a deviation from our non-alignment international relations policy we took in the Russia-Ukraine conflict? Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Deputy President.
I'm not sure if Honorable Khadeb is referring to South Sudan. You will recall that with respect to Ukraine, we took a decision not to take side in the conflict. That was our position. And you know why? Because we supported peace. We said, let the conflict be resolved through negotiations. When the president went with the other president, they were going to urge both President Putin and President Zelensky to go back to negotiations. It's a similar stance we're taking in the continent. We support peace. We want these parties to come, negotiate, go to elections, and let the will of the people be done. That's what we're supporting. So I don't think, Honorable Khadebe, that there's a contradiction in what we are doing in the continent, that the stance we took on Ukraine is the same. It's a move for peace everywhere. South Africa has always stood for peace. I think that's what we are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The last supplementary question will come from Honorable Ryder.
Thank you, Chairperson. In spite of his ambassadorial background, or perhaps because of it, Mr. Dango's question seems to be encouraging selective diplomacy. But Mr. Mashatile, your government seems to be cherry-picking when to raise its voice and when to turn a blind eye. And this leads to the very dangerous situation of confusion among our foreign partners, where no one knows what our foreign policy anchor is anymore. It's certainly not human rights. Deputy President, can you tell us whether the Cabinet has criteria to determine when to condemn an assault on democracy and when not? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President.
Are you worried about a specific place? Are you worried about a specific place? Okay. No. If you are listening very well, when I started, I said we condemned the coup in Gabon. I said that. No, in Ukraine there was no coup. No, there was no coup.
All the honorable members,
in Ukraine,
we can't have a dialogue with the Deputy President.
I'm trying to answer.
Yes.
In Ukraine there was war, or there is war. And we went in and said, negotiate. Because we want peace. We said negotiate. We are saying the same. That's why we are succeeding in South Sudan. We said negotiate. Now they've put their arms aside. They are moving towards in fact, already in South Sudan, they have what they call a transitional government of national unity, where all the forces have now coalesced, and they are moving towards setting up a fully fledged democratic state. That's what South Africa must always support. Whether it's in Europe, in Africa, or in the West, let's always stand for peace. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, allow me at this point to thank the Deputy President for availing himself for the oral question session, and that indeed this is the way we would like to see it going into the future, that when such a responsibility arises, the response should be indeed be a positive one. Just to say, honorable members, as we put our hands together for Deputy President, we will after this have a 10-minute comfort break, reconvene and finish our business.
Mamão.